2 petrol bombs were thrown at one of the oldest churches in Malaysia on Monday, as tensions run high between Muslims and non-Muslims over the use of the word Allah. The attack was seen as retaliation against controversial banners hung outside 5 churches in Penang. The Church of the Assumption was one of the churches where the banner with the text "Allah is great, Jesus is the Son of Allah" was found. Church leaders informed the police after discovering a banner outside the church at 8:30 a.m. on Sunday, saying that they had not authorized the banner nor its wording. At around 1:30 a.m. on Monday, 2 men on a motorcycle hurled 2 Molotov cocktails at the church. Only one bomb exploded near the Mother Mary shrine, while another missed its target. Muslims argue that only they can use Allah, the Arabic word for God, which has been imported into the Malay language. But Christians say such restrictions infringe on their rights.
For more about the tensions in Malaysia, we're joined by Jamie Metzel. He's the Executive Vice President of the Asia Society, and he just recently returned from a trip to Malaysia. Nice to see you again, Jamie. Welcome back to the programme. So let's take a step back before we start. Tell us a little bit about Malaysia's religious and ethnic mix and why some observers are surprised and, quite frankly, troubled by this outburst of violence.
Well, Malaysia is a deeply multi-ethnic society. About 55% of the population is ethnic Malay, but the rest come from other groups. About 25% of the population is ethnic Chinese, about 10% Indian. And at the time of Malaysian independence in 1957, there was a big debate about whether the state would be an ethnic state for Malays or whether it would be a state that would accommodate everybody. And there was a grand bargain made at that time where the ethnic Malays were given a special role in politics. But now the other groups are beginning to say, we've been here for a long time, we are Malaysians, everybody is a Malaysian, and we deserve equal rights.
Right, so how has this turned into a sort of a potentially sort of tinderbox-like situation in the intervening years?
Right, well, because the official religion of Malaysia is Islam and the official language is Malay, there's a constant back and forth between Malays and non-Malays and Muslims and non-Muslims. With this particular issue, on the religion issue, it's become increasingly sensitive. There's been a creeping Islamicization of Malaysia. And then in this specific case, there was a ban in 1986 on Christian and non-Muslim media for using the term Allah to refer to anything other than the Islamic deity.
Right, so this recent outburst of violence, is it only about the court ruling on the use of the word Allah?
It's much, much deeper. This is just one manifestation. The issue of the use of this term, that was a spark, but the tinder is coming from Malay's current experience.
And briefly, is there widespread support in Malaysia's Muslim community for these attacks against Christian churches, or are we dealing with a small group of people?
Yeah, there's very little support for these attacks among Malay Muslims, but the question is, how much support is there for creating Malaysia as a truly national state where everybody gets equal rights and the state doesn't have play a special role in favoring one group? That's the ultimate question.
All right, Jamie Metzel, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Malaysia's Islamist authorities have raided a Christian group's office and seized over 300 copies of the Bible that include the word Allah. 3 members of staff from the organisation were also taken away to a police station over their use of Allah, which is illegal for non-Muslims to use.
It was a very physical affair. I was surrounded by a group of them speaking loudly and threatening me. So eventually we let them in and they searched our premises, went through our books. They seized 16 boxes of Bibles, 321 Malay Bibles and 10 copies of the Bab Kudus, which is the Iban Bible.
The move signals a growing intolerance to Christians within supposedly moderate Malaysia. There are now concerns that the move may inflame ethnic and religious tensions in the Southeast Asian state.
We call upon the Christian community to remain calm, and we call upon our Muslim fellow citizens to also be understanding in this matter. It's the only scriptures that they use and that they have access to.
A Malaysian court ruled in October that the use of the word Allah was exclusive to Muslims, overturning a decision allowing a Catholic newspaper to use the Arabic word. Politicians are urging Prime Minister Najib to resolve the issue.
It is started by the federal government, and it's up to Najib to stop it based on his own so-called version of moderation that he has been preaching.
Analysts believe Christian persecution may be a way of bolstering ethnic Malaysian support for Najib's government in the face of rising prices for energy and sugar.
The Metro Tabernacle Church in Kuala Lumpur has been damaged by a firebomb. It's one of a number of churches attacked across the country as Muslims vow to prevent Christians from using the word Allah as a translation for God in their newspaper. The ground-level office of the three-story church was destroyed in a blaze set off by the firebomb, which police say was thrown by attackers on motorcycles just after midnight. No one was hurt, and the worship areas on the upper floors were left intact. Security was tight Friday outside the National Mosque in Malaysia's capital as police were enforcing a ban against street demonstrations. But inside the mosque compound, young followers carrying banners listened to fiery speeches. Muslims have been angry since a court decision overturned a ban on Roman Catholics using the word Allah in their Malay language newspaper, read in remote indigenous areas.
We as the Muslims, we respect the Christians. We prefer them to respect us too. So, as this country is peaceful, today we want it a bit more peaceful by they touching the Umat Islam. Today, we fear that there will be racial riots, which is not happened once also in this many years.
And Muslim group leader Mohd Fazil William isn't the only one fearing for Malaysia's interracial harmony. Karen Sloan, The Associated Press.
Only ruins remain at the Metro Tabernacle Church. The church occupies a corner plot in a row of shops in Desa Melawati, a suburb of Kuala Lumpur. Police found a wrench, an empty gasoline can, and 2 scorched motorcycle helmets at the scene. Church lay leader Peter Yao says witnesses were not near enough to get a closer look at the young people who sped away after throwing flammable materials into the ground floor of the church. The witnesses informed the police and the fire and rescue department, which arrived within minutes and doused the fire. No one was injured in the incident, as the church was empty at that time. 3 cases of arson were reported at churches in Klang Valley on Friday. 2 other churches, the Assumption Church in Jalan Templar and the Life Chapel Church in Section 17, both in Petaling Jaya, escaped similar fate with little damage. Lim Yuk, The Star, Malaysia.
Muhammad was a warlord. And I don't know what to do about that fact.
A big bearded fella shouting, "Jihad, jihad, slay the infidels" on the streets of London. It could be saying that he's about to have an inner spiritual struggle with the precise nature of the deity.
I mean,
come on.
So when she read the Quran, she took it for what it said, which was...
And it did advocate jihad, and it did advocate war, and...
Oh, it advocated jihad and it advocated war?
Fighting the non-believers.
Oh, fighting the non-believers! Well, imagine that! Oh, God! It's not like we've tried saying that or anyone else has tried saying that.
How could anyone claim that Islam is inherently violent just because Allah commands his followers to fight anyone who doesn't believe in him? And just because Muhammad said that he had been sent to fight people until they acknowledge him as a prophet? And just because Muhammad ordered his followers to execute anyone who leaves his religion? What kind of monster would claim that Islam is inherently violent simply because it calls for the violent subjugation of the entire world?
Jihad is not only defensive, it can be offensive as well.
The claim that there's no such thing as offensive jihad and that the Muslims of early Islam never engaged in conquests is a claim that is simply not backed up by any shred of evidence. In fact, the opposite is true. And that is an undeniable fact, which is why nobody pre-modernity ever said this.
The other type of jihad is the one that everyone trying to hide. And it's called jihadut talab. And this means that the jihad of pursuing, running after.
We should stop sugarcoating.
This jihad cannot be accomplished, cannot take place unless the state of the Muslims is strong. If you don't have a strong Muslim country, who can they pursue or attack?
The third and final stage of jihad is offensive jihad. Once we establish a majority and achieve political power in an area, we are commanded to fight offensively. Once Mecca and Arabia were under my control, the Quran's message began to change.
Surah 9, verse 73. O Prophet, strive hard against the unbelievers and the hypocrites, and be firm against them. Their abode is hell, an evil refuge indeed. Surah 9, verse 111. Allah hath purchased of the believers their persons and their goods, for theirs in return is the garden of paradise. They fight in his cause and slay and are slain, a promise binding on him in truth, through the law, the gospel, and the Quran, and who is more faithful to his covenant than Allah? Then rejoice in the bargain which ye have concluded, that is the achievement supreme. Surah 9, verse 123. O ye who believe, fight the unbelievers who gird you about, and let them find firmness in you, and know that Allah is with those who fear him.
And fight them we will. When Muslims have the military strength to expand and subjugate non-Muslims, the Quran commands us to do so.
Surah 9, verse 29. Fight those who believe not in Allah nor the last day, nor hold that forbidden which hath been forbidden by Allah and his messenger, nor acknowledge the religion of truth, even if they are of the people of the book, until they pay the jizya with willing submission and feel themselves subdued.
Yes, and notice, the command is to fight those who simply don't believe, not fight them because they are attacking us.
Sahih al-Bukhari 6924. I have been ordered to fight the people till they say, La ilaha illallah. None has the right to be worshipped but Allah. And whoever said La ilaha illallah, Allah will save his property and his life from me. Sahih Muslim 129. The Messenger of Allah said, I have been commanded to fight the people until they bear witness that none has the right to be worshipped but Allah, and that Muhammad is the Messenger of Allah, and they establish the Salat and pay Zakat. If they do that, then their blood and wealth are protected from me. Okay, Muhammad, can I please call for a timeout? I'm a bit confused. I've been watching some videos in my spare time, and I see so many contradictions. I see Barack Obama claiming Islam is peaceful.
Islam is not part of the problem in combating violent extremism. It is an important part of promoting peace.
I see Andrew Tate claiming that ISIS are the real Muslims because they kill all non-Muslims.
ISIS are the real Muslims because ISIS do exactly what the book says. Kill everyone who's not a Muslim and chop people's heads off and set them on fire and be fucking raging lunatics. But all the other Muslims go, they're not real Muslim because I read the book and ignore those parts. Well, then you're not Muslim because you're ignoring the book.
Then I read the Quran. I read things like, there is no compulsion in religion, and that whoever kills a man, it's as if he killed all mankind.
The Holy Quran teaches that whoever kills an innocent it is as if he has killed all mankind.
Then I read these verses of fighting, like the ones you just got me to read out. I just can't make sense of it all.
Ha ha ha, shake it off. You really are an ignoramus, aren't you? Barack Obama would be killed if he acted on his urges under my ruling, so not sure why he's jumping to our aid, but we'll take it. As for Andrew Tate, we'll get to him later. But let's just say he wouldn't know the Quran from a phone book.
Reading books is a very cheap way to, I guess, entertain. I wouldn't call it entertainment because my brain is far too advanced. I'm too smart to read. I'm not going to sit there and go, smart people read. No. It's for people with slow brains.
First, let's turn to the Quran. The verses you are thinking of are ones we frequently quote to take the public eye off Muslims when we are in countries where Muslims are a minority. These unbelieving morons don't even bother to spend 5 minutes researching these verses or anything about me.
What do you know about the Prophet Muhammad?
We've established nothing.
So it's easy to pull the wool over their eyes. In regards to that latter verse you mentioned, that is actually a command for the Jews. It originally comes from the Talmud, Mishnah Sanhedrin 4 verse 5.
Surah 5 verse 32. On that account, we ordained for the children of Israel that if anyone slew a person, unless it be for murder or for spreading mischief in the land, it would be as if he slew the whole people. And if anyone saved a life, it would be as if he saved the life of the whole people.
Note that in the Quran it says this command is for the children of Israel. Allah is referring to the Jews. Keep reading. The next verse is the command for Muslims.
Surah 5 verse 33. The punishment of those who wage war against Allah and His Messenger and strive with might and main for mischief through the land is execution or crucifixion or the cutting off of hands and feet from opposite sides or exile from the land. That is their disgrace in this world, and a heavy punishment is theirs in the hereafter.
As for the conflicting messages, here we need to turn to the rule of abrogation.
What now?
Abrogation. Later verses cancel earlier verses, which I will explain to you in more detail on another day. The confusing part is, the Quran is not compiled in chronological order, in order for you to find out which surah was revealed last, and therefore abrogates earlier commands. You need to turn to the Hadith.
Sahih Muslim 4153. Al-Bari bin Azib said, the last verse to be revealed was the verse of Qalala, and the last surah to be revealed was Bara'ah, i.e. Surah At-Tawbah.
That's 100% correct. Surah At-Tawbah, or Surah 9, which you have just been reading out to me, is the most inherently violent chapter of the Quran. It was also the last full surah revealed, and abrogates earlier peaceful commands when it is safe to do so. One of the most renowned Islamic scholars in history, Ibn Kathir, discusses this in his commentary on Surah 2 verse 256, which speaks of no compulsion in religion.
Tafsir Ibn Kathir, Part 3, page 38, Al-Firdaus edition. This verse is abrogated by the verse of fighting. Therefore, all people of the world should be called to Islam. If any one of them refuses to do so, or refuses to pay the jizya, they should be fought till they are killed.
In the words of a jihadi who slashed police officers with a sword outside of Buckingham Palace, the Quran is encrypted, and if you read it in chronological order, you will find that the majority of the peaceful verses have been cancelled out by the later verses commanding violence.
Imagine that! Oh God! It's not like we've tried saying that or anyone else has tried saying that.
Good old Mr. Chowdhury knows that Tommy Robinson understands jihadi doctrine. Islam does preach violence against unbelievers. As for that illiterate pimp Andrew Tate, he was right to a degree, but it's not quite as simple as just killing everyone who is a non-believer straight up. There is a process to follow, as we have just discussed.
Number one, to call them to Islam. If they refuse, then tell them Allah obliged upon you to pay taxation, jizya.
The Sharia gives you incentives. If you don't convert, you have to pay extra tax. You have certain restrictions. You have this, you have that.
If they refuse, then we have to fight. And if we fight you, then we capture you, you become our slaves, and we take your land, and you take where, because you refuse, I give you two good options. This is the strength of Islam.
Remember, the idea is to convert as many people to Islam as possible.